and that creates a duality, and that starts a journey to reach moksha, which is somewhere in the future, somewhere millions of miles away, and this and that has robbed people of their happiness. So when people recognize only the soul and not the body, there is a suffering. At the same time, material societies have pampered the body so much that whatever they do is geared towards the body, pampering of the body, the sense satisfactions, all those things have put their efforts for the longevity of life, dressing of the body, pleasures of the body, all these things, but because of the not awareness of the soul, there is a hollowness, there is emptiness. So beautiful combination will bring the beauty in the life as it is. So we all know the story of the king who became terminally sick, and they could not find any cure, and everybody knew that the king is going to die. And finally a fakir comes in the palace and he says, if you wear a shirt from a happy person, then there is a cure. That will give you cure. The illness is very simple illness to take care of. So he sends the wazir out to look for a shirt from a happy person. So wazir started running. So the first thing the king thought was, obviously wazir is not happy. Because he would not be, otherwise he would have given his own shirt. So right from Pratham Grak se Makshika, so right off the bat, the first guy he thought could be happy because he's working in the palace, he has a nice job, he should be happy, but obviously he did not offer his own shirt. So now he's knocking doors of so many rich people, well-to-do people, this and that, and everybody says, no, I have this suffering, my son has this disease, or I have this problem and that problem, and all day long went by, could not find anybody who was even close to happiness. So as he was passing by, there was a nearby river, and all of a sudden he heard somebody singing. And he says, I never heard anybody singing. In the whole town I passed by and everybody was suffering, complaining about their problems and this and that. This guy is playing a flute and he's so happy. So he went there. He says, sir, are you very happy? He says, absolutely. I am the happiest person you can meet. He says, this is what is happening. The king has terminal illness, and they say if you get a shirt from somebody who is very happy, he can survive. So can you please give me your shirt if you can? He says, I would not mind, except that I'm so poor, I don't have a shirt. So the guy had done so much soul searching, he was extremely happy, but did not invest his resources to make a living either. So he said, I have no shirt to give you. So the king had to die. So the moral of the story is, you have to have a balance.
At least buy a shirt.
At least buy a shirt.
Yeah, but then he won't be happy, you don't know that. He was happy because he didn't have the shirt.
So either a country has paid too much attention to the soul and has lost their energy as misdirected energy and not invested enough into the science, and some countries have invested too heavily into science, not enough resources into the soul searching and the spiritual level. So we want a civilization that sees body and the soul both, and body is also a gift from God. So it has to be respected and it has to be looked at with respect and love. And if you think the body is a nuisance and it's a burden, then also it's not going to take you to the bliss state. Saint Francis was one of the great saints of Christianity. And when he died, he prayed, and people thought that he must be praying to the God. He says instead of that, they heard him saying that he was praying to his body, and he was thanking his body that all through the life you gave me the company, and if I did make you suffer, I ask for forgiveness if I had to make you go through a lot of suffering. But that's what we all do, and we never realize that. Body is a beautiful gift to us, given to the soul, but we really make us suffer unnecessarily, and it's not necessary. So recognition of a body is also very important. Now the spirituality is important, going within and going into the soul searching is extremely important. But to call it in the names of the religions that has been set up for last 5,000 years as a gateways to reach to the soul levels, they themselves have created a problem. That's a fake spirituality. That's not a true spirituality. Because if you really go within and you go into the deeper states of meditation, you are literally nothing. You are an empty space. You are no name, no shape, no size, nothing. In fact, whatever is given to you, you're ready to accept it. You are everybody. At the same time, you are nobody. You can be everybody. This morning I was in Harkari doing the meditation. The same thoughts came, like I am in a state where I can be a doctor, I can be a monster, I can be an actor, I can be anything.
Right.
Whatever it is given to me from outside. But you are that formless state. You are that colorless water. Whatever color can be added, you can achieve that color.
Right.
So colorless state is the best state to be. So you realize that whatever is given to you for some practical purpose, but it can be taken away, and that's not what you are. If I am a doctor, only in my wide awake state I might say that, but in meditation I am nothing. So science has made a lot of progress, but spiritually we have to make the progress. But if we think that Jainism, Hinduism, Christianity, these are the ways and these are the real religions, then that's not going to take us anywhere either. Because those identifications are also something that falls apart when you go into the meditation. When you go deep within, how do you call yourself a Jain? How do you call yourself a Hindu?
Correct.
Nothing. The ultimate state you want to reach, it doesn't really matter. So the ways which have been going on, again, are played at the matter level. The identifications which are given to each other by telling each other that you are this, you are this, you are this, and these are the rituals, these are the things you have to do to be a Jain. All these things are useless. Ultimately, that brings a hindrance to the ultimate state that you want to reach, which is a thoughtless state. That even the thought that you are a Jain disappears, or a Hindu disappears. You are a male disappears. Your body also disappears. Body, mind, everything disappears. So having more and more identifications are more and more layerings around your central soul. Central soul has no layers. Central soul is pure by itself. So if we call these so-called religions as a spirituality, that's a big mistake. There are some 300 religions in the world, and each one claims to be better than the other 299. Now you tell me how it's going to take you to the ultimate state of realization. So real spirituality exists within your soul, and if you have a soul which is resting in a blissful state, you're going to bring bliss into the society. If your mind is restless and is filled with identification, it is going to bring only chaos in the world. If I think I'm a Jain, automatically you are not. So that creates a boundary between you and me. Now whatever you do, I'm not ready to accept you because you're not Jain. So all my behavior, all my things will be basically directed by a belief that I am a Jain and you are not. No matter how much you try to fit it with me, I'm going to have a problem. And the same thing goes for all the religions. So each one says that they are better than the other 299. And yet they keep on talking about peace, and peace should prevail in the world. But they themselves are the biggest obstruction in the peace. How many people have been killed in the name of religion? How many wars have been fought in the name of religion? Just because of religions. It's crazy, it's insane. And yet it's happening all the time. And people are duped to believe that this is the way to go. So inside state of bliss it should start from within. The lotus of peace has to rise within you. Then your whole life can be filled with fragrance. So what your state is what's going to decide what your rest of the life is going to be. There was a story of a village where a horseman pulls over, and there was an old man sitting near the entrance to the village, and the horseman asks, he says, "Sir, what kind of people are in this village?" He says, "Why? Why do you want to know?" He says, "Because I'm thinking of settling here, and I came from another town, and I have given up that town, and I want to come and settle somewhere where people are nice." So the old man was wise. He said, "Before I tell you how people are, tell me, why did you have to leave the town that you left?" He said, "Oh, don't even talk about that town. People were so lousy. They were cheaters and they were robbers and they hated me and this and that and all that. I never want to go back to that town again." So the old man says, "Believe it or not, this town does not seem any better than that. So I think it's better that you move on and find another village, because I don't think you're going to be happy in this town." As he had left, an hour later, another guy comes in, and same question he asked the old man. He says, "How is this village people?" He says, "Tell me about where you came from. Why did you have to leave the town?" "Oh, well, what can I say? I mean, the people were very nice, and I had just had a lot of problems making a living in this world, in that town, so I'm finding a better employment. But if I can, I would rather go back and live in the same town before I die." He says, "Then I welcome you, because people are very nice over here, and you will love them." So there was somebody who was sitting there listening to all this conversation, asked the old man, say, "Why did you tell one guy that people are no good, and to the other guy you said people are very nice?" He says, "I just wanted to see the reflection in my mind of what their mind was. And their mind was so unhappy and dissatisfied to begin with. So I knew that they are never going to find peace anywhere they go."
Yeah.
So the same way, if you are happy to begin with, you're going to find nice people. So the same thing in Mahabharata they have, right? They sent Duryodhan to find somebody nice. He couldn't find anybody nice. And they sent Yudhishthir to find a bad guy. He couldn't find a bad guy, because everybody is nice. So niceness and badness is a part of you. It's not the part of the
your
world.
own thought thinking.
Exactly. So it's our doing that is what is making your life miserable or happy. So until we realize this fact, our efforts are going to be directed in fixing the world, fixing your spouse, fixing your children, fixing your patients, fixing your customers, fixing Obama, fixing this world, fixing all those things. People have so many ideas about fixing everybody else, but they never have ideas about fixing themselves. So, and that creates the fight, that creates a friction, that creates a battle, that creates the dissimilarities, the dualities, or whatever you call, and animosities for the rest of the world. So, in Liu Tzu was a Chinese philosopher. He narrates a story of a Chinese court. There was a big emperor residing in that court, and a wise man came to talk to the king. He says, "I want to give you some advice." So the king was in the top of his career. He had won so many battles, and he knew everything about the battles and fightings. And so he says, "If you want to talk to me about the strength and courage and some ways to win more enemies and more states and more people, to extend my empire, then stay here. Otherwise, I have no use for it." So the wise man says, "No, I understand that. But if you talk about wisdom and all those things, I don't want to hear it. Because I know everything." Right? And so the guy said that, "I want to teach you something where if somebody attacks you, but he can never succeed." He said, "That's good, because obviously throughout his life he had made a lot of enemies, so he was always afraid that somebody will attack me." So he says, "That's a good thing. If you can teach me that somebody can attack me anytime, but can never succeed." He says, "Okay, so I'm ready to listen to you." So he says, "Okay." So here it goes. He says, if somebody attacks you and misses, it still does not look good that somebody tried to attack you, right? And you will still be humiliated, because everybody will talk about it, that king was attacked. But the attacker maybe was a weak guy or whatever, so he missed it. But still, the fact that somebody attacks you, it spoils your reputation, right? He says, yes. So, wouldn't that be better that if he does not dare to attack in the first place? He says, yeah, that would be nice. If we can do that, that if nobody attacks in the first place, then there is no question of humiliation, that even if they miss, I don't look bad. So now, if I can teach you so that nobody can attack you, that would be really nice. He says, yeah, how do you do that? He says, supposing, says somebody, you make a law that nobody can attack and nobody can come near and all that. And people, you have enough sentries around and all these things. And you make sure that nobody will come near you to attack you. But that does not mean they don't wish to attack you. In their mind, they may still want to attack you. Ultimately, mind is the creator of the action. So now, even if you stop the action at the action level, but you're not stopping somebody from hating you or wishing to attack you, wouldn't that be nice if you can remove their wish to attack you? He says, yeah. How do I do that? He says, think, if everybody loves you, why would they want to attack you in the first place? If they love their beloved king, in the whole kingdom you go by, you will be walking like everybody loves you. So if everybody loves you, nobody hates you, nobody wants to attack you, so then the question of failing attacks and all these things never arises. So then you can live your life peacefully and fearlessly through a whole. So yeah, that would be nice. Now how do I generate love in them? He says, whatever you give, you receive. It's simple. He says, what if you love them too? Then they will give love in return. And then everybody is happy. So the king said, this is the first guy who won me with arguments. So if you have love for your own people, people will have love for you. He says, look at these people like great philosophers like Confucius and all that. They don't have empires, and yet millions of people love them because they love people. So even without having a kingdom, they're walking around with more popularity than you are. So ultimately, it's the love within you that has to spring and goes for outside. Otherwise, you're going to be creating more and more armies, more and more defenses, more and more people. Every time somebody attacks you, you're ready to attack back. All these things can be alleviated if you have a happy and peaceful mind. So the question is not how the world is outside. The question is how is your inner state of mind. And that decides everything. The transformation can come from within and not from without. Now, if the happiness or the blissful state happens within you, it doesn't matter what you are doing in your life, whether you are a poet or an artist or a professional or shopkeeper, doesn't matter. Everywhere the peace and the bliss is going to infiltrate, because that's what you have. That you're going to be offering to the people around you. So that's how it goes, because ultimately your inner state of mind is going to show up on your outer state of mind or outer state of your body and your behavior also. So unless you have the realization of the Almighty God, you're not going to have that. There is a story of two Japanese monks that once they had gone out for begging, at the end of the day they come back home, and they had a small hut at the end of the town, and a big tornado had passed by and half of the roof had been taken away. So one monk was very upset. He says, out of all these big palaces which are still standing, God had to destroy our small hut. After all, what did we do? We are very religious and pious people, and this is what we deserve for doing all these beautiful things for Paramatma. So meanwhile, the other monk was bowing down and praying. He had bowed down on the ground and praying. He said, what are you doing in the time like this where half of the roof is gone, our hut is in a shambles? So the guy said, I am praying to God that he left the other half intact. Otherwise would have no roof. So compared to that, at least we can sleep under the half the roof. So whatever happened is okay with me. On the contrary, so far we never listened to the rain, but now when it rains at night, we'll have the music of the raindrops sitting next to us. So, see, it all depends how you look at life. If we want more and more from the world, we're gonna be requiring more and more and more. No matter what we have acquired will never be enough. Then we will need more. So that's your atikraman. That's what we talked about last time. Atikraman is attack onto the material world to achieve more and more, as if there is a mind full of pleasure coming out from the world. You want more and more. But pratikraman is what we need. Pratikraman is going within. It's a Jain word, but that's what Mahavir described as journey to the soul, as pratikraman. You go within. And when you reach there, the satisfaction is there. Satisfaction is sitting there for you. You just have to uncover it. And once you have that, it doesn't matter what you're getting from outside. So your appreciation for the Paramatma, for whatever you have, will happen. You will not have how to do it.
I think you could enjoy that state once you achieve that. It's really
Absolutely. So religion means rearranging your inner state of mind, basically. And your internal happiness will emerge by itself. And the science is rearranging the material world to achieve the happiness. Right now, the race is going more and more on the material side, and the spiritual side is being neglected. And that's why, despite all the achievements, people are not happy. But religions, again, doesn't mean your traditional religions. You may be wearing any clothes and performing rites and rituals, and if you consider you have done your duty towards reaching the soul, think again. You have not even scratched the surface, because that's all waste, total waste of time, money, efforts, and not only you hurting yourself, but you making other people believe that what they also should be doing, and this is what is correct, and all these things has created unnecessary wastage of energy for thousands of years. Science has progressed so much, so well, only because it is standing on the truth. The science is standing on the truth because they want to discover the truth. And the material world is beautiful. There are a lot of secrets there. But science at the truth level has been able to share. Same study that is done in US is done hopefully in an ethical way, but the approach, the scientific, has been to perform the studies in a very non-biased way, and you come up with the results, and these results are shared everywhere into the world, and the studies are compared. So science has been able to spread all across the world without any crossing all the boundaries. Same insulin drug that is found is helpful in Middle East or in far countries, Ghana or Haiti or anything like that. The fruits of scientific research has helped millions of people, because basic nature of millions of people is the same. But the the spiritual progress has been lagging behind, and that does not mean this spirituality is weaker than the science. It's only because the efforts have been corrupted by the egoism and the desires for acquiring more wealth, using their spiritual powers and things like that. So there has been so many fractions. All the energy, imagine the energy that is spent on 300 religions, if all is combined into the true soul searching by every single individual, and then correlating those experiences with each other, and that will be a beautiful way of spreading a religion which is true religion, a spirituality, rather than labels of different religions. And that's what has happened in the world, and that's why the spirituality has been lagging behind, because people have been frustrated the way the spirituality has been presented to them. So there is nothing to hate in this world. And Rabindranath Tagore was about to die, and the last few hours were left, and one of his friends asked him that now start praying to Paramatma so that you can be relieved from these cycles of birth and rebirth and all that. So again, that's the thoughts of the so-called spiritual people, to hate the life and the cycles of birth and rebirth as something to hate. So Rabindranath Tagore said, he says, no, on the contrary, I would wish that Paramatma brings me back into this, experiencing this beautiful earth that I have enjoyed, the beautiful sunrises, beautiful moonlights, and all this beauty that's been abound in the outside world. These are all reflection of Paramatma, and I have no problem in asking for another life with him. So, and whatever the beauty that came to me, I try to appreciate to the best of my ability, but somewhere along the line, I praying to Paramatma that if I did not appreciate the beauty in whatever he did to me, it was more because of my faults and my misunderstandings that prevented me from enjoying the beauty of this world. So please forgive me and let me give a chance to correct it in the next life. What a beautiful thought, right?
Yeah.
So life is beautiful and life has to be enjoyed in its totality. If your mental and spiritual development does not remain synchronized with the power you're getting, you do not deserve it. You should know and you should do your soul searching as you're growing higher in any field you are. Whether you are in a small shop and you're becoming an owner, you are an employee, you're becoming an owner, or that whatever it is, you hire, you ring, the more awareness you have to for your position, and the more ego you have to keep your own ego subdued, and you have to be wise, and you have to be considerate to all your employees and the people around you. The higher you go, the better you should get. Then only the proper mixture of the prosperity and the spiritual development, and that makes the life enjoyable. And that takes you to Paramatma. One or the other, if you're very smart and you never put yourself to this hardship of achieving something, is not going to be any good, because you're not going to make any difference in the whole life at all. You will live and die basically by yourself, and your wisdom and your hard work will be ruined. At the same time, if you do all these things and you do get rewards, you will become mean and dishonest and all those things. You're going to be affecting a lot of people's lives around you. So it's very important that a balance has to be set in life. For that, soul searching is extremely important. So, if you live long, does it really matter? Because living long is like a Nadir Shah. He was given so much diamonds and rubies and jewels, and he invaded in India 108 times. 108 times he invaded. He took all the camels and horses and the elephants and everything. And when he invaded Delhi, he pretty much took all the jewels, including Kohinoor, and all those things were taken away. And all these horses and the elephants were loaded and loaded with bags and bags and bags full of all this jewelry gone to a wrong guy, basically. So the thing is that the same way, equivalent to people say that I want to live long. But does it really matter? If you live long and if you don't deserve to live long, maybe you should not live long. The question is, that kind of gift, if it comes to you, it has to be, you have to make yourself worthy, that if the God has given you a long life, you have to make the best use of it, so that for the benefit of the whole world. So, same thing, that's the, physically you may be fit, but if mentally you are unfit, it's useless. And same thing, some people, they say that, okay, I do yoga. Our beloved guest is not here today, because he comes and goes as he pleases. So, you see, he says, you do yoga, and it makes you fit. But then what? Physical fitness, but that you stop at the body level. You haven't not gone anywhere. After doing yoga, you have a physical fitness, but if you're not doing anything that is substantial in life, that physical fitness, living longer, all these things has no value. You watch your health, and you stay away from this, eat healthy food, this and that. But all those things have no meaning if you don't have spiritual development, because it's only the one side of the equation. And the same thing happens. Rajneesh talks about, he says that because Patanjali gives all this Ashtang yoga, Ashtang Pad. So because you start with the Samadhi, 8 steps of Samadhi, that includes the Yam and Niyam and then yoga, the asanas and pranayam, and then samadhi, dharana, and all those things. So until you progress, those are initial stages of taking care of your body. But the body is nothing if you don't move any forward. So, because Patanjali mentions that you will get a lot of siddhis and a lot of things will come. But even then, what good is that? So Rajneesh is very funny. He says, okay, so you did yoga and all those things and you got psychic powers that you can read somebody's mind. But do you really want to read somebody's mind? Why do you want to? It's bad as it is. You have garbage filled up in your own head.
Right.
And then you want to go into
Read
somebody else's garbage.
Yeah.
What good is that, right? Your own garbage you want to get rid of. Then you picking up somebody else's garbage. Say you're walking on the street and all of a sudden you have a power that you can read everybody's mind. He says, well, somebody's thinking about their cow. Somebody's thinking about their cat or a dog. Somebody's thinking about their wife. Somebody's thinking about somebody else's wife. Whatever. How does it matter?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden in the whole crowd you find a yogi who can read everybody's mind. But now you're reading his mind. Now you have a real problem because
He's reading your mind.
No, he may be reading your mind, but now you're reading somebody else's mind who is reading somebody else's mind. Now you have an information overload. He says this is ridiculous. This is childish. All these things don't mean nothing until you reach samadhi. Samadhi is the ultimate state of bliss, which is a thoughtless state. Nistarang man is samadhi, where you don't want any thoughts. And to reach that state it's a very delicate state. And you cannot use the matter to reach to the spiritual goal. Matter is created from the spirit. Matter will never take you. So performing any duties outside has a very limited value. All the achievements that you have has limited value. Until you go within and you connect yourself to the soul, material achievements have no value. So people who are ignorant and who are not spiritually awakened, it's better that they don't get the power. Unfortunately, but that's not the case. So science is the power. It's making us more and more powerful every day, but the peace in our mind is being robbed all the time. So we have to be able to utilize this power that has come in our hands and to utilize that judiciously, and in a balanced state we need a balanced mind. So outside suffering can come only if a person is suffering inside. If I am happy and am totally satisfied in my life, I will never think about making anybody else suffer. Only if you have a dissatisfied mind, that mind is the only way a devious mind cannot bring the suffering for other people intentionally. All these killings of mass graves and all these things found in all these countries, all are acts of the people who have devious minds to begin with. So devious mind is the problem. So having a peaceful mind, automatically peace is going to come in the outside world. No matter how many treaties you make, no matter how many contracts you make, people turn right and left on a dime. No matter how much agreements you make, ultimate peace is going to happen only if everybody's mind becomes peaceful to begin with. So if I am in an unhappy situation, first of all, whatever is my material achievement, it's not going to let me be happy. And at the same time, now if I'm suffering, the only way I'm going to feel better if somebody else is also suffering, so I can synchronize with them. And it's simple as that.
Share
Right. Then you become the same. So that's the way we're looking for homogeneity. If I'm suffering, might as well you also suffer. So then that makes me happy that, mine is not as bad as his now and this and that. It's very crooked, it's very cheap mind, But whether we like it or not, we all are suffering from this kind of feelings at the deep, deep, deep levels. Whether if you sit down and analyze, we might realize that whatever is happening at the country level, it's the same thing is happening at an individual level also, unfortunately, because it's the same minds everywhere. At the country level, again, countries hate each other. They don't want other countries to be there. The political power that's in the hands of politicians, they hate each other's countries, this and that. There was a story that, it's a fake story, but it does make sense, that once God became very disturbed with the state of the world, and there was so much nuclear powers had piled up, the nuclear weapons, and God was really concerned that I hope the whole world does not reach to an extinction. So he brought the three powerful countries' leaders, the US, Russia, and China, and says, okay, for once, I'm going to settle this so that there cannot be any further wars. So I'm going to grant you a wish for each country to come up with, and I'll try to fulfill that. So first, they asked American president, he says, what do you want? Just tell me one wish. So America says that God, we have no problem, we are very happy, very prosperous, and we're really dominating the commercial aspect of the whole world and all these things.
Okay.
But the only problem we have is Russia is coming in the way. We want Russia to be taken out of the world. Now, God was terrified. He says, how can I take the whole country as big as Russia out of the picture? But anyway, let me listen to the other people's thoughts on this. So he asked Russia, said, what do you want? He says, Russia says that we have no problem, we are doing very well, we have lots of oil, we have a lot of prosperity, but we don't want America on the picture of the world. So God was very disturbed. He says, I'm going to really have to think about carrying out these wishes. So they finally asked China. He says, what do you think? What is your wish? So China says that we are new in the game. We really don't want any destruction in this world. All we want is, we don't have any our wish. We don't want to give you any wish from ourselves. We just wish that both the wishes of America and Russia can be fulfilled simultaneously. So this is a literal, the story may be fake, but this is the literal state of mind of all the political leaders. Everybody hates each other. Everybody do not want anybody else to be around, the competition and all these things. But whatever is happening at the country level, don't you think it's happening at individual level also? Why do you think people build homes? The big homes are built not just for their own satisfaction, to show to the other people that my house is bigger or better than yours. And as soon as another bigger home comes sit in the neighborhood, all of a sudden the depression starts and all these things. So we get attached to our material possessions only so that we can fight, if not at the physical level, at the mind and spiritual level, to make yourself better or feeling worse than the other. This is a real game. This is what is happening on a real basis, right? And you dress up in the morning. Are you dressing yourself up just to feel good, or you want to make sure you look the best in the party? You want to look the best in the shop. You want to look the best compared to other people who are dressed. Now, what is this? At the subtle level, you want yourself to be better looking than somebody else. So that's again a war happening at the spiritual level, right? Instead of thinking, and yet, oh yeah, he's my buddy, she's my buddy, this and that, but I look better than her, or I look better than him. All those things are silly games, but that's what we're doing. That is what is happening at the spiritual level within our minds. So all this is happening because we are not satisfied with ourselves. If I am satisfied with whatever I look like, the way I dress up, the way I please, and if I'm happy with that, I don't have to compare myself with anybody else. When I compare myself with anybody else, then the war is going on.
Correct.
So my mind is disturbed to begin with. But if my mind is not disturbed, I don't have to worry about it. How I look and how I compare with other people, it becomes immaterial. So mental stability, mental satisfaction can happen only if you do the soul searching and you find your sweet spot of spirituality. That's the way to live life, and that's the direction we have to take. The knowledge to know the unknowable, because that's something you have to become familiar yourself with. So we have all the signs of dissatisfaction at the spiritual level. We are not satisfied with ourselves, and that reflects in our behavior. But it becomes so common and so normal that we don't really think about it. You go to a party and everybody dresses up nicely, and they say, yeah, I mean, everybody dresses up nicely. But at the end of the party, when they go home and they say, oh, she looked like that, and he looked like this, and I looked like that, it was literally a competition, basically. It was never a place where you could hang out, just have a good time, right? Who looked how good, this and that, and all that chinda chukli and all those things goes on until the next party. So our minds are not happy. If we don't have happy minds, we're not going to have happy life. And this happiness is our own happiness. It's nobody else's. When I try to compare myself with someone else, and if I cannot beat somebody else in their looks or their height or their rich clothes or whatever, then I get depressed. Now whose fault is that? You started it, so you are the one who's suffering. So might as well get rid of that. So again, the problem is within us. It's not with anybody else. So if whatever you have, you are spreading it around, basically. If you have unhappiness within your mind, if that's all you have, that's all you can give. How can you give something that you don't have? Even if you give to someone which may look like, it will be fake. It will not be real. I may come out and say, oh, you're my best buddy and this and that. But as soon as the guy walks away, I'm backstabbing him and I say, oh, he's crazy, this and that, and oh, he's like this and he's like that. That's not real friendship. Because on the appearance, I was saying being nice. But niceness was not in my heart to begin with. Inside I knew that I'm better than him, or I'm jealous of what he has that I don't have, this and that. But all that, I subdue it. I seal it tight so it doesn't come out, and only the right thing comes out at the party, and everybody says, oh, he's my best friend. I make him believe that I'm his best friend. But when I go home, oh, I feel good that he didn't look as good. I'm just giving an examples. These are real life things, right? These are real life situations. So whatever I have is what's coming back to me also. So fixing inside that's what's gonna help me. If I'm happy, on the contrary, if I'm very happy to begin with, it doesn't matter if the other person is dressed up properly or not, whether he speaks properly or not, whether he's superior to me or not, inferior to me or not, doesn't matter. If I'm happy, I just want to be happy.
Exactly.
With everybody's happiness, and so what? Have together. I mean, we are social animals. We get together, we have fun, and we depart without paying any attention to how anybody looks like or this and that, and all those things are not important. But that happened because I was happy in my mind to begin with. So everybody has to strive to have that happiness, and once we have that, your life becomes beautiful. Not just the parties, I'm talking about in general. Anywhere you go, you will be spreading happiness, because that's what you have.
Because you are happy with them.
Exactly. So science definitely has reached to the new heights, but the science in the hands of unhappy minds is very fatal. It can have very horrendous consequences, and it has
created more problems.
Yes, it has, yeah. So that's why it's very important to have a spiritual development. And like I said earlier, to focus your attention only on the spirit is also can be a disaster. That's what the Eastern countries have done. They have paid so much attention to the spiritual progress and has paid no attention to the material progress. So the poverty and all those things ensues because the life and the well-being of the people was neglected, and all the suffering that happened. So both the things has to happen simultaneously. Then only a true progress. In the West has made tremendous progress in the science, but spiritually they have been lagging behind. They have not recognized the existence of the soul, existence of the Atma, and then they have found that even after achieving the material satisfaction, the inside they're still remaining hollow. They're still not happy. They're looking for happiness somewhere else because they have realized that matter alone does not bring happiness. At the same time, soul searching only, doing meditation 24 hours a day, not going to work, also does not bring you happiness, because then eventually it's going to start haunting you. So we need a society which can give you a balanced attitude towards the life. Because life is not just the body, and life is not just the soul either, but it's a beautiful balance of the mind and the body and the spirit. All those things have to be equated and balanced properly. So people who gave too much importance to the soul, what they did was they neglected the body. They said, we're going to run away from the world. Material achievements, material possessions, meaningless. Just walk away from it. They're not going to be happy, because somewhere along the line, lack of matter is also going to make them suffer. So running away from the material presence, because matter is also a manifestation of God. Thoughts are manifestation of God. Matter is creation of God. When you run away from matter and you concentrate only on the soul, you're creating a duality in your mind. And there are religions who talk about only the soul and not the body. They say body pleasures are not important, body this is not important, run away from body, this life is useless, we ought to reach the nirvana, moksha, we don't want to come here back again. All these thoughts have created a faith. The name of the series I have put down as Journey into Unknowable. Knowing the unknowable, I would rather say that. It's based on a series by Rajneesh on Agyat Ki Aur. So he's telling us to go into Agyat. But it's kind of a misnomer, because Agyat, literal translation would be unknown. But unknown also means that it can be known. With the proper tools and proper education and proper grasping of the information, you can know it. It's just you're not there yet. But when we're talking about Paramatma, when we're talking about the spiritual self-realization and all that, it's not a question of knowing or not knowing. Knowing can be converted into, unknowing can be converted into knowing, but when there is something that is unknowable, then it's a different league altogether. So that's really the journey that we want to take, to know the unknowable. And when you really reach to the state of unknowable, the knowledge becomes secondary, because the knowledge, the knower, and the knowing, everything merges into one spot. That's the state of samadhi. So that's where we want to go. So Agyat Ki Aur should be actually Agye Ki Aur. Agye is not knowable. To know something, we use our tools. Our tools are 5 senses: touch, smell, hearing. All those senses we use to assess a situation that is made of objects, people, or combination of all these things. So our limitation is the limitation of our senses. So we can know only what our senses can let us know. Anything that is beyond the senses, we cannot know. So the world actually operates only based on only 2 things. Either something that is known to you or something that is unknown to you. But with proper teacher, proper training, you can know it. So the exchange of information basically makes you know things. But that's about it. Meanwhile, there is huge life that is hidden behind all these things, that is operating all these things, operating you and me, including the knowledge that we are all sharing. Is like on the surface there are a lot of ocean waves going on, one ocean wave talking to another ocean wave, and all this bickering and this and that, not knowing there is a huge ocean underneath. So at some point we have to take that journey into the state of unknowable. So knowing the unknowable is going to be the topic of this series. I'm going to start with a discussion on one story about a Sunni fakir that occurred, happened around year 93, 95. So right after Jesus Christ was born. So about 2,500 years back. Her name was Rabia. And one day, and she was a poor family. She was from a poor family. And she was one of the 4 daughters of a poor family. And the literal meaning of Rabia is 4. So she was the 4th daughter of a very poor family. And one day from her hut came the shouting. She was shouting in the morning, "There is a fire, there is a fire, there is a fire." And the whole neighborhood woke up and everybody started rushing to help her out, thinking that there's going to be a fire there. So they brought buckets and buckets full of water, and as they arrived near her hut, they realized that they did not see any fire. So they started asking Rabia, "Where is the fire? You've been shouting." He says, "No, no, no. The fire is going on within me. There is nothing you can do about it. Thanks for your concern. But please take your buckets of water back home. But my fire only I can quench. The fire is happening within me. I have a lot of upsetting feelings inside, and that's what I call fire, and I have to take care of fire. But by the way, when you go home, you search your souls and find out whether you are also suffering with that fire or not. The fire, everyone has it within their own souls. Only a soul searching will tell us that we have a lot of conflicts going on, we have a lot of emotions going on, we have a lot of vruttis and vasanas, we're fighting all the time, and we are really continuously in a struggle between the soul and the matter and the possession, acquisition, holding, preserving, all these things is going on. She equated that with the fire, and the only thing to do to appease that fire is to go within and have face-to-face conversation with God. She was a very spiritual person. I actually looked into Wikipedia because Rajneesh talks about Rabia a lot. So it was very interesting. She has a very interesting character. So, like I said, she lived in Iraq, actually modern-day Iraq, and she was born between 95 to 99. And she was the first one in the Sufi tradition to bring the divinity and the love for God, like a bhakti, more or less, like a devotion type of, like an angle to the whole existence about the God. Before that, it did not exist. So she was like, you can equate to Mirabai. She made popular the divinity and the worshipping of the God. And she was the first one to introduce the idea that God should be loved for the God's sake, not for your personal interests or personal motives. He says God is God, and there has to be no reason for you to worship God other than God himself. So she was the first one to, because there were other Sufi traditions had been going on before that, and there were again similar like that's going on in the Christianity, that if you do this, God will punish you. There is a Satan. The Satan will be, devil will be let loose on you, and all those things. But if you do this, you will get paradise, and all those, the people were attracted into given the attractions to get into the religion so that you can start worshipping God. So she says that God cannot be loved, for any sense of or for any desire to achieve something. So her prayer always used to be that, oh God, if I worship you for the fear of hell, burn me in hell. That means if I'm worried about hell and that's why I'm praying to you, make sure that I go to hell and I suffer. Or if I worship you with the hope of paradise, make sure I do not go to the paradise. I do not want that kind of paradise. But if I worship you for your own sake, please give me your everlasting beauty. So this was 2500 years back, pretty much revolutionary in those days even. So it really makes sense, and that's what Rajneesh has been stressing about, that your journey into the unknowable should be not tainted with any motives, any desires, other than just the desire to merge yourself with Paramatma. So knowing the unknowable is a beautiful journey that we're going to start. And at one time, because she was born very poor, she went through a lot of suffering and poverty, and her father was very poor, but very self-respected man, and had a lot of respect in the community, and he would not ask for anything from anyone. But the poverty also has its own virtues also, and that's how she was also. She would not beg anything, she would not ask for anything, but going through the hardships, she was taken as a slave actually by one of the richer people, and slave traditions had been going on even in those days for thousands of years. The modern equivalent is knockers, our servants. They're pretty much slaves, right? For we give them something and they do it for us and things like that. So in those days, she was captured as a slave, and the the saying goes that during those sufferings also, because she had to do a lot of hard work and things like that, but she would not give up her prayers that she would do every single day. So one day, one day her owner heard about her prayers, and she was praying that, God, I know you want me to pray you all the time, and I do want to pray you all the time, but all these duties of being a slave is interfering me. I wish I did not have that, but whatever it is, I'm going to carry out your wish is my command, and I'm going to keep doing. Somehow her boss, the master, heard this, and he really overcome with guilt and the feeling that maybe I'm hurting Paramatma himself, so he let her go, and he freed her, and that's how she got her freedom, just out of her divinity. And then after that, she lived for many years, till 85, 90 almost. She never married, and so her life was a very good example of spiritual. So that's why Rajneesh quotes her so many times. So one time, and again in those days also there were pandits, and so there were sheikhs. Sheikhs were again the appointed religious leaders, so-called, and they had claimed authority as far as training people to reach to the heaven and things like that. But here Rabia had reached to the self-realization on her own. So he asked her, how did you do it? So the answer she gave was very beautiful. She says, you know the how, you know the methods, but I know the how less. No methods, and just be yourself. Jala se machli, jaise machli nikalti hai. So give up all the ideas, give up all the thoughts, give up all the notions, give up all the wrong thinkings and all these things. Sometimes they themselves are the hindrance in the path to the spirituality. So she said beautifully that you know the how, but I know the how less. Without knowing anything, you can still reach to the state of realization. So whether we realize or not, we all are suffering with that fire within us. Whether we want to pay attention to it or not, whether we want to neglect it and put it away, but there is a suffering inside. We always are suffering, and continuously we become so accustomed to it that we don't even think twice. And that fire is continuously burning. And with burning fire, if you operate outside the world, it is your life, your behavior, your treatment of other human beings and animals is going to be reflected by upsetting feelings and the disturbed mind that's going on. You're going to be reflected, it's going to be reflected in your daily life. So just the way the problem has been, that just the way the people were running with buckets of water on to quench the fire, which they thought was outside, but the fire really was inside Rabia's mind, heart. We are also directing our attention mainly to the world, to the outside material world, thinking that by winning the matter, we're going to be able to have a satisfaction within. So our efforts are directed in the wrong direction. And that's why we have the invention of the science all was attributed to with the thought and the idea that winning the nature, winning the matter is going to bring us the pleasure, it's going to bring us the satisfaction. And it cannot be farther from the truth. So the fact that as the science has advanced in the direction of the materialism so much, at the same time we have not made any progress in the spiritual sense, and our minds, our inside psyche has been remaining disturbed all the time. So if we are handling, the science has given more and more power to us, we have achieved more and more achievements outside, but our minds have been always disturbed. And if you give too much material power to somebody with a disturbed mind, the results can be very fatal. And it has happened. In last 1 century, last 20th century, we had 2 world wars. Between 2 world wars, 85 million people were killed. The numbers are staggering. And it has all happened because power has gone into the hands of the people whose minds were disturbed to begin with. 6 million Jews died at the hand of a single-handed guy, Hitler, whose mind was disturbed. So achieving at the material level is very important, there is no question about it, but at the same time, it has to stay at the pace with the spiritual development and simultaneously. So you cannot have one without the other. At the same time, to have a spiritual advancement and have no material progress also is not going to work either. And that's what has happened in the Eastern countries, where we have paid too much attention to the soul, spirituality, but not enough importance to the outside happiness. And that's where the countries become poor and they remain at the very primitive state. So science has gone really to the top and keeps on rising, but the fire which is within us still keeps on burning. In fact, keeps on going, and it's getting worse and worse day by day. So part of the reason is that our ideas were focused mainly to the outside, thinking that fixing the outside will somehow fix the inside, but it has not happened. So inside state of mind is very important and becomes more and more important as you go higher in the society and your actions can affect the millions of lives around it, like a president or a senators and things like that, or somebody who is in charge of nuclear missiles and whatever. The state of those people's minds is extremely important to have the stability, because otherwise innocent people can be affected. So after killing 85 million people in 2 world wars, somebody asked Einstein that, what do you think about the 3rd World War? When do you think it's going to happen, and what will be the outcome? And he says, so Einstein said, I have not thought much about the 3rd World War, but I know so much about the 4th World War. He says, how come? He says, how come you don't know much about 3rd World War, but you can tell about the 4th World War? He says, I can tell for sure because the 4th World War will not happen, because in the 3rd World War, the humankind would not survive. The amount of destruction that will be there will be astronomical, that if at all somebody survives, then maybe 4th World War will be fought, but only with the sticks and the stones. The civilizations will be destroyed.
Yeah.
So that's how much we have reached to the brink of total extinction among us. All this hatred and all this greed and the power, all these things have multiplied so much that in old days, like thousands of years ago, the tribes would fight, maybe 4 or 5 or 10 people will die, and then the war will be called at an end, and the decisions would be reached. But now the same mentality has gone through evolution of more and more hatred, but now we have gadgets, we have scientific, war instruments and war tools and all the weapons of mass destruction, all these things. It's almost like if a crow wants to sing, and who wants to listen to a crow? But give him a loudspeaker or a microphone, and now the whole world can hear the crow. So that's what has happened. Wrong peoples have been getting the wrong achievements at the science level, and that has unfortunately has created a lot of devastations for a lot of people. So it is very important to synchronize the scientific achievements with the spiritual achievements also. In fact, both the things are important. The power in the hands of immature people can be very dangerous. There is events noted in the life of Nadir Shah. Nadir Shah was a Muslim invader who came to India, and his empire stretched all the way from Middle East to the Afghanistan, part of China, and then he came all the way to Delhi. Before him, the Muslim Mughal Empire was ruling India for like 400 years. And little by little, it had started crumbling, and Maratha Empire from the southwest was encroaching, giving them hard times and things like that. So he saw that as an opportunity, and he attacked India. And he was so ruthless that he had a very devious techniques to harass people, and mass murdering and all those things were so important for him to create the panic and fear among the people. One of the technique was to surround the whole town with the soldiers all around and then set the town by the fire. He would not let anybody escape. When he invaded a Mughal emperor, he came to Delhi, Muhammad Shah was in charge, and first Muhammad Shah did not want to budge. So finally he had to give in because his forces were so powerful, Nadir Shah's. So, but he still did not want to concede his emperorship. So his men, Nadir Shah's men, created a massacre on a day of March 22nd. 30,000 Indians were killed in Delhi in one day.
30,000?
30,000 people.
Wow.
And that brought Muhammad Shah to his knees. He says, please stop this carnage. This is how much ruthless this guy was. And he had so much power. Imagine all this destruction because of a disturbed and dirty mind, basically.
Ego. Yeah.
So he had asked one of the astrologer once that, what do you think, what is your advice? Should a man live long and try to live long, or should just live an average life, say 70 years or something like that? And also tell me, is sleeping too much good for you, or I should sleep only little, or I should sleep more? What are your thoughts? I heard you are a wise man. So the astrologer must be a really wise man. He says, it all depends whom I give the advice. To the man like you, and if a man like you wants to live long, I would say don't do it. In fact, the people like you should not be born in the first place. And if you are born, you should die immediately. He had guts. He did, yeah. And you should die immediately. And if you do escape, and supposing you do live longer, you should sleep 24 hours a day and drink yourself to death.
Right.
He says the carnage that you have afflicted on millions of people's life can be saved from one person like you who have an evil and a devious mind. So this is what he told Nadir Shah.
Wow.
And Nadir Shah could not get over it. He did not kill him somehow. That he says that I can understand that guy. Why would he be so insulting to me? So the question is,